Garifuna American Heritage Foundation United proudly presents the Clifford J. Palacio Garifuna Language and Culture Academy online. It's every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time through www.lmbroot.com in the Bronx, New York, and www.radiocentroamerica.com in Los Angeles. Classes are free and for the entire family. Download the homework or handout from Facebook's Garifuna Language and Culture Academy page or from www.garifunaheritagefoundation.org. All radio programs will be recorded and archived on YouTube's GAFU channel for on-demand listening. This project is made possible in part by a grant from the Alliance for California Traditional Arts in partnership with the Walter and Elise Haas Fund and the William and Flora Hewitt and the James Irvine Foundation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to all of you this evening. This is our new time for Belize and for Central America, as we have changed the time now to daylight savings time. So we want to welcome Surusia Aranda tonight for lecture number 5. I want to welcome each and every one of you tonight to the Garifuna Language and Culture Academy online. Garifuna History lecture number 5. Welcome tonight, Surusia. Wituwinyo.
Rani. That me balance rega beno.
Yes. Okay, we're ready.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, all the listeners. I'm going to begin tonight with answering one of the questions that was asked from the discussions of last week and the week before. The question really was that with all of those ships coming from the Guinea coast, from Mali, from the Mali Empire, into the Americas, the individual who asked the question presupposes that all the crew members and all the travelers were men. So that his question long was, who were the mothers of the people who stayed behind in the Americas to be the blacks, the Africans, the Garinago today? In other words, who were our mothers? The first thing to say about that is, number one, that Abu Bakari was not the first to cross the Atlantic. He was the emperor of Mali. Many people before him had been making those trips across the Atlantic into the Americas. And those people usually travel not only men, but women also. As a matter of fact, Abu Bakari's trip was well planned. The first trip he made, or he sent really, was with 400 ships. 200 ships with cargo, and 200 ships with human beings. And those people were men and women. The first 400 ships he sent across. Those 400 ships did not return except for one that went back because it was afraid of getting into the current, that is the mid-Atlantic current. We have spoken about that current long ago. He was kind of afraid that he was going to get lost or something like that. because since he could not see his colleagues, he returned. So when he returned, he went back to see his emperor and told him of that current in the ocean and the length of time that it took them to travel from Mali itself, that was the Guinea coast, because Mali was the empire, and the Mali included what today is the Guinea coast, there's Ghana, there's Senegal, and Mali proper, which is a very, very large country. So when that happened, therefore, Abu Bakari took his time and planned another trip, because he was not daunted, because he knew for a fact that there were people on the other side of the ocean, and that that others had been trading with them, other Africans, that is. Other Africans had been trading with those people. So this time, he didn't come with 400 ships, he came with 2,000 ships. 2,000 ships. 1,000 of those ships with cargo, that is gold, food, and everything else, and the other 1,000 with human beings. And when Abu Bakr traveled, and very many of those higher leaders, and in this case the emperor himself, was going to come on this second trip, he didn't come alone. He brought a large entourage of people. Some of them were his wives, some of them were his women servants. I mean, it was not exactly, or what one would say, just men. No, it was men and the women mixed. Now, how many men and how many women, I don't know. However, there were, as I would want to presume, there were as many women on the trip as there were men. But again, let's go back to the fact that this was not the first trip Abu Bakr sent. The first one was 400 ships, and they did not go back, excepting for one. And other people, other sailors, traders, etc., had also come ahead, and never, I mean, some of them, well, those were mostly the traders. They would come, do the trading, and they go back home. So the first thing to remember is that monarchs in those days, that is kings, emperors, usually traveled with large entourage, that is a lot of people. One entourage could be 4,000 or 5,000 people. But in this case, in this trip that Abu Bakr did, it was 2,000 ships, 1,000 ships with women, 1,000 ships with men. Now, how many people there were on the ships is something I don't know at this moment. We may try to find out, all right. But it was, I don't know. But definitely if it is 2,000 ships just for people, that's quite a number of people. And I think we can assume that. So, by the time Abu Bakr got to the Americas, therefore, and when he got to the Americas and stayed in the Americas, he brought along a lot of people who stayed. It doesn't necessarily mean with him, because our ancestors did not stay in one place. Some of them went to what today is the Gulf of Mexico. Some of them went to what today is the Caribbean. That is from Cuba all the way down to Trinidad. And some of them stayed in what is today the South American coast, especially the eastern part of the coast. Places like Colombia, for instance, and Brazil, etc. As a matter of fact, the remains of Abu Bakr are in Brazil. And there is a lot of black people in Brazil today. A lot of black people in Colombia today. A lot of black people in Venezuela today. So it was not simply, let's say, as we had been assuming all along, or at least as we had been told by so-called anthropologists and archaeologists, that it was human. No, 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 no. Haiti, Santo Domingo, Cuba, the Lesser Antilles were all places that our ancestors occupied. And closer, onto the mainland, sorry, Panama, Colombia, Brazil, Venezuela, and Honduras. All of those areas were occupied by our ancestors. And when the people who came after Columbus came to the Americas, in other words, the first set of Europeans that came to the Americas found a lot of our people there. If you are going to have a large number of black people, they had to be black men and black women, and that's exactly the way it was. So, to ask who the mothers of these people were, those were Africans. The mothers came from Africa. That's what I can say to this gentleman about that question. It was not simply that it was only men, so that when they got to the Americas, they had to cohabitate with the native women. They had their own groups, and invariably they were a bit onto themselves. They may mix with one or two, but it's not the case that you ask who the mothers were, which would then imply that it was only men that came, and all the children that they had were mixed. No, those people came ready to do the business, and in that case, in the case of Abu Bakari, he brought along a large entourage, 1,000 ships with human beings, men and women mixed. All right, we can leave that piece alone, because I have stated that it was not only men who came down, men and women. For tonight, our discussion is going to be around what we call the culture of the Garinagu and the symbols that Garinagu use. Now, before we go deeply into that, I need to make a few statements. Number one, we the Garifuna people have made quite a lot of achievements in Africa itself, as well as in the Americas. We brought down our culture. We brought down our tradition. And that is the tradition we still have today. And it is a source of pride to us to be able to speak of our tradition, to be able to speak of our culture, and to be able to show the things that we have indeed achieved. We are proud as a people. Garinagu are a proud people. And our tradition, culture has served us well. It has given us a dignity, and it has given us the foundation upon which to build, so that we can become greater people and we can achieve more. That's number one. We have a culture, tradition that we can rely on, that we can boast with, and it's a foundation for us. However, today, here in Central America and here in the Caribbean, there is a confusion, a very serious confusion, of identifying the Garifuna people with their implements. Implements mean tools, the things that you use, such as, for instance, Hana, we call it in Garifuna, which is mortar and mortar stick. That's one. Number two, fagai, paddle, and the various other implements that people use. Now, I am not saying that we brought all of those tools from Africa, because it is quite easy that the people of the Americas had those tools also, and most likely had tools also. But as I said, therefore, what we have done is that we have confused our implement with the human beings, that is, with the Garifuna people who use those implements. And we have even confused our dance with the Garifuna people. In other words, we want to believe that there are dances which are Garifuna and that it is equal to the people that dance it. In other words, your dance becomes you and you become your dance. The implements that you use and the tools that you use become you, and you become your tool. We have confused those two things. An implement, a tool, is something that any and everybody use, and we cannot claim that all our tools are biased, because as you travel, and remember in the travel of the Garifuna people from Alduvai Gorge all the way to the coast of Atlantic, those people, we met with a lot of people, but definitely, I don't think we would have crossed the Atlantic Ocean with paddle. There's no possibility to that. So we cannot assume that all of those things we brought along by ourselves. The drum, yes, the drum is an African instrument. The drum is an African instrument, and we brought our drums, yes, but we are not the drums. The drums is an instrument, or are instruments. We are the ones that play them to produce our music. And our dance is not, you can't say, like one of the things I've heard here in Belize quite often, that our Garifuna people want to say, in Garifuna they would say, Wale, Wagili, Wambi culture. In other words, this is ours, this is us, this is our culture. No. Those are implements. Don't confuse a human being with the tool that he uses. Don't confuse yourself with a machete. A machete is a tool that you use to cut grass. Don't confuse yourself with a mortar stick. A mortar stick is a piece of wooden thing that we use with a mortar to beat plantain or rice or barley or anything else. Don't confuse yourself with that. We are not mortar sticks. We are not the mortar itself. Neither are we machetes. Then it keeps going. I have even seen people using as logo. I think we all understand what logo is. A logo is a symbol that is used by a people to represent something. I've even seen people trying to put a paddle, a mortar and its stick, and the drums, and as you see it, they want you to say that that's Garifuna. In other words, again, confusing instruments with human beings. Now, let's go back to Abu Bakari for a while. When Abu Bakari came from Africa, he'd use talking drums. Remember, his entourage was large. There were 400 ships on the first enterprise, and there were 2000 on the 2nd. When you travel across the ocean, across great distances, you will separate. But the way the expedition was kept together was with a talking drum. I saw a talking drum once in Nigeria. It's a very huge drum. And that thing, when you beat it, you hear it from miles away. It's a very powerful thing. And in the open ocean, that drum was what they used to sort of to talk to each other, to indicate where they were, what the location was, and in what direction they were moving or going. In other words, to keep the entire entourage, to keep the ships together. At that time, they had not yet developed telephone, or they had not yet developed a radio system, but they kept themselves, they kept the entourage together with their talking drums. Those were used, but let me repeat, let's not confuse ourselves with a talking drum. By the time Abu Bakari arrived in the Americas, we do know that when he got to the Caribbean and when he got to Mexico, those people were frightened by the sound of those drums because they started hearing those drums 2-3 days before they saw any ship. Those drums are loud, and the distance traveled, especially over plain areas like the sea. So the talking drums were an instrument. Now I'm going back away from this drum business to show to you that other people use other kinds of drums. I don't know if the word is other kind of drums, but other shapes perhaps, but they're all drums, all of them. Today we know what a symphony orchestra is. Today we know what a band is. And each of those bands use drums. And they use the drum for music. As a matter of fact, I cannot anticipate, neither can I understand, for instance, very serious grouping of musicians that don't use a drum. A drum is an integral part of music, or music producing, so to speak. So the fact that those people use drums for their orchestra or for their combo or for their band, do you ever call them drums? No. They use a drum, but they themselves are not the drum. This third part that I believe I can use, the only thing is we don't have any school, we don't have a university here in Belize that has what we call a marching band. In the United States, and I have to limit that to the United States because that's where I went to school, and that's where all of this creates a lot of hoopla. A university normally keeps a marching band and normally boasts of a marching band. Those of you who have watched any football game between universities, you can see the competition between the marching bands that those universities have. Both the university at home as well as the university. And they all boast of the quality of their marching bands. They compete to be better than the other schools that they are playing with. But one of the things that you will never hear is that the school is going to accept those drums to represent the school. No. They don't use the drum to represent the schools. Universities are not represented by drums. Universities are educational institutions that don't use drums to represent them. They represent themselves with a tradition of scholarship, education, sciences, and everything else that the school is famous for. Even though they do have a marching band, and even though that everywhere they go to play, they take along the marching bands, they don't confuse themselves with the marching band. The other thing that we have sort of confused Garina with is Wanarago, or Jankuno, some people call it, and the Wanarago is the word in Garifuna. As a matter of fact, here in Belize, I don't know if the same holds for other nations like Honduras, for instance. Here in Belize, they want to claim that this is them. This is my culture. Wanarago is a dance that is that is danced on certain seasons. Here in Belize, the dance is somewhere around December. Not a dance that they do all the time. Therefore, you cannot confuse Wanarago with Garifuna. As a matter of fact, we have gotten to the point of being insulted that we are Jankuno. And Jankuno is not a Belizean thing. But I don't see why we should accept to be a symbol. I don't see why we should accept to be an emblem of something and believe or say that that's you. The same thing goes for mortar and the mortar stick. Mortar is an instrument that we use to beat plantains or rice or barley or various other things, to trash those things. That too is an instrument. So Garina were not martyrs. Mama Ogehana. We are not martyrs. So now, what I am going to say, and in all my thinking, my analysis, my observation, and everything else, it is time that we recognize that we do not live, that we are not simply going into an era of science, but that we have been in the era of science for quite some time. We have been in the era of technology for quite some time. Therefore, the symbol that we need to start using is a symbol that, number one, helps us in the survival of the people. In other words, things that shows progress. Symbols that shows that we are a productive people. Symbols and emblems that states that we are progressing forward. Not something that we are holding on to from way back and want to associate ourselves with that tool or that implement. We are in an era of technology today. So we are in an era of science. We are in an era of highly complex and complicated trade and commerce and the global economics. That's what we are living in today. We must therefore look to the future and make sure that we succeed in those things that are happening among us or around us. That is science. We need to get into the sciences. We need to get into technology. We need to get into highly complex and complicated trade and commerce and global economics. We need to get in there so that we can become equally productive and benefit from the advances of the day. So we have to look to the future, not backward. We are in the era of research. When I use the word research, research is investigation most of the time. We are in an era of research which is today in universities, in research centers, in areas of production of medication, etc. We are looking to cure diseases that so far are incurable. Alzheimer's is one, cancer is another, Parkinson's disease is another. We need our students to go to universities, to go to places where there is research. In other words, exchange with other people so that we can also heal and cure some of these diseases that bother us. Among us here in Dangriga, and I'm going to limit it to Dangriga, or Belize for that matter, cancer is very, very common. And it's not a matter for others from outside to come and cure us at all times. We need to know what caused our cancer, but the only way we can do that is to do research, to analyze and to study what is happening. But we cannot do that if we get stuck in the past with the things that do not help us to solve these issues. Human life is a complex of both the old, the modern, and the new. Among every kind of people, there is the old. In other words, the things that we used to do way, way back. But we have abandoned because there is something that is better, something that assists us better to survive better, to heal us better, to teach us better, to make travels a lot easier. So our students, therefore, must go into those areas where they can indeed produce more food from even perhaps the same size of land, that we can indeed more nutritious food, that we can produce better quality food. So food is just another part of this whole situation. So our students must be able to look forward to those, and these are some of the things that we need in our culture, not just those things that are old and something that is passé, if you want to put it that way. We are in the age of astronomy. Our ancestors were the first astronomers. Giza Pyramid was one of the largest observation tower. So it doesn't begin with us here now. It goes way back thousands and thousands of years, at least some 5,000 to 6,000 years back. At that time, our ancestors knew the planets, the satellites, they knew the comets, they knew all of that by observation. So the fact of being Garinagu does not mean that we don't know or should not know about the space age. Because it is not Wanaragu, it is not drum, it is not a paddle, but it affects our lives. Those are the things that are very significant to us today. The scientific things, the things of today. let's go back to the paddle. If for whatever reason, for instance, you are going to be talking with people and you are talking about space, you are talking about transportation, but all the implement that you're going to come up with is a paddle. Do you think they can take you seriously? Just think about that. I won't answer the question at all. We need to study the things that are going to affect us for the future. And if we don't do that, what we are going to find ourselves in is basically that nobody pays us any attention, because as far as they are concerned, we are a primitive people whose concern are the things of the past. Another thing that we have to start looking at today is climate change. I don't know how many of us pay attention to what climate change means or is, but indeed, the climate is changing. The kind of weather that we used to have is no longer the same. Climate change is affecting the entire world. And if we cannot know what climate change effects are, we are going to suffer the consequences. Here in Central America and the Caribbean, we suffer from one storm that hits us not just about every single year. That's a hurricane. But yet, very few of us understand what hurricane is and how it operates. We need to know a lot more about hurricanes. And the worst thing about this whole situation with hurricane and climate change, we are getting worse and worse hurricanes every single year. We just this year, we had a hurricane in the northern part of the Caribbean in January, something that didn't happen before. So, in spite of our pride in our culture and in our heritage, we cannot be bound or we cannot be chained to former stages of development. We cannot bind ourselves to what is already behind us. We need to liberate ourselves and free ourselves so that we can move forward and deal with the issues of today. Not only a matter of health, not only a matter of food, not only a matter of space, etc., not only a matter of travel, but every single facet of our lives. We need to move from there. Our tradition is not a chain. Our heritage is not a chain. Our culture is not a chain to bind you and to bound you and to tie you down. It has served you well. Keep going so that culture, that heritage can evolve, that is, change with the time, and to continue to serve you better all the time. Our hope is in the future. And the future must also become a part of our culture. We must understand the liberating force of progress. We must understand that evolution and the progress towards greater things, towards more relevant achievement, must be the Garifuna dream. And let me repeat that because I think it's very, very important. Evolution and the progress towards greater and more relevant achievements must be the Garifuna dream. Our children we must not raise our children to be like us, in the sense of to stay where we are. Our children should always stand on our shoulders, not where our feet are. If you were, whatever you are, your hope should be that your son and your daughter are going to do better, that they are going to be freer, that they are going to be more educated, that they are going to be more traveled, and they can understand the world a lot better than you can. One important thing, and please listen to this one. One of the most important, one of the most significant, and one of the farthest reaching voyages the world has ever seen was when our ancestors crossed the Atlantic and opened up trade and commerce with the new world of the Americas and the old world of Africa and Europe. That's one of the biggest achievements by the Garifuna people. And I'm going to stress that a bit. We need to understand that our ancestors were the first to cross from Africa across the Atlantic Ocean into the Americas. And today, you cannot fathom the amount of transatlantic traffic, trade, and commerce. You cannot understand that because it's a volume huge. In other words, we started something which at that time might have seemed simple, but the world built on that. Utilize what we got to know. Utilize our seamanship. Utilize our navigation skill to cross from Africa into the Americas, so that the trade which was first and just about that way for about some 6,000 years perhaps, changed when the Europeans found out, and they got into the trade also, and they got into various other things of that time. They came in with sword, with cross, and everything else, and not only massacred our people, but took and robbed the riches of this world and took it to their own country in Europe. So that today, England boasts to you about its library, boasts to you about its wealth. France boasts to you about the beauty of its cities. Germany boasts to you about the achievements. They all boast to us about what they took from us here in the Americas, what they pillage Africa about, and boast to us about it like it was theirs. What they did was take advantage or benefit from what we had, and they built on it. What we must then understand today, that we do have a heritage, but that heritage we must nurture and we must try to keep. So, when I say to you, therefore, that the volume of transatlantic traffic, the trade that goes from Europe to the Americas and to Africa and to everywhere else, and especially with the opening of Panama Canal, that they come from Panama Canal, from Pacific Ocean into the Atlantic Ocean, and the same trade and same traffic, same commerce continues. And in doing so, they develop geography, they develop oceanography, they develop cartography. Cartography is making of maps, etc. They find out about the mountains and the valleys in the depths of the seas. They find out about the depth of the ocean. And that was the same ocean we crossed. But they continued analyzing it, studying it, and they benefit greatly from it. And the worst part of the whole thing is this, that we, the first to cross the Atlantic, do not even understand, neither do we know, that that was the thing that developed from what we began. That's one of the things I'm going to press. That we should recognize that we were the first to do that. So when you see those ships coming across, yes, that's the achievement of those nations because they have built on what we had. They had built from what they learned from us. They had built on what now they have. And we ourselves here don't even know that that was something that we started. And we don't even recognize that we had a contribution to that. Okay? So, let's see how much more we can go. We have about another 10 minutes. So I'm going to just go through some of the things that I have said. One is that culture, symbol, and the tradition should be concerned with progress, advances in many areas, whether you're talking about agriculture, oceanography, cartography, health, astronomy, construction, technology, and for them to learn from us and we learn from them. Culture, symbol, and the tradition means scientific training. And we must look to the sciences so that we can indeed not just advance, but even make a contribution to the development of the world. Symbols and emblems. Let's take a look at a flag. Flag is an emblem, it's a symbol. What does a flag say to you about yourself as well as about what that flag represents? Most of the time, before a flag is made, people discuss the symbols, the colors, the size and the shape of a flag. How do we do ours? What I am saying here is that the flag that we build should be a flag that shows a forward movement. That we benefit to the development of mankind, that we are constructing something to benefit our people so that we can live better, have more pride in ourselves, and be able to assist others also, respect us for the contribution we make to them and the contribution that we can get from them. We cannot show that we have to show that in as much as we can benefit from what others have, we must also contribute to what others have. In other words, you benefit from them as well as you contribute to them. They benefit from you as much as you benefit from them. So that if there is any occasion, and I want to task you with this, if there is any occasion in which we are going to show our emblems, in which we are going to show our symbols, in which we are going to show our tradition, what we show is vulgarity. What we show is primitive. What do you think those that we are talking to, those that we are trying to develop a friendship with, what will they think of you? What will they think of us? Remember what we were talking about when I used the paddle? If we are going to go into a scientific discussion, if we are going to go into a scientific gathering, but the symbol and emblem that we take along is either a paddle or a mortar stick, what do you think those say talk to? Are you going to go up there and proudly say, this is my culture? And here you are in an era of science, trying to do something that should elevate your nation? No, we have to do better than that. We have to show efficiency. We have to show tools and implements that takes us forward, that shows that we have invented useful tools and useful instruments. There was a time when our people cut their farm, they used machete. Today, nobody uses machete to cut any farm. Bulldozer is what we use now. But we have got to be able also to use other things that will improve what today is the bulldozer. But to understand that, you have to go into engineering. You have to go into various other sciences that enables you to do that. The other one that I have to mention is, when you speak of your culture, you are speaking of something that is beautiful, elegant. That's a part of the culture. We cannot, that when we are talking about our morals, we have to show something that is edifying. And our choice of life, our taste in life has got to be better than the common. But if when we show, for instance, like on TV here, the vulgarity that we see on television, the dancing of the punta and the this and that, it's time that we sort of reflect on that and we say that that's our culture. One of the things I've often said about the 19th of November is that it's time that we review what the whole thing is about. When you see a man and woman and child, each has a beer in their hands and as drunk as a fish, and to make matters worse, they wear muscles that is trash, old dry banana leaves around their neck, and they tell you this is my culture. We need to do something about that. But there are two factors that can be helpful. One is that we are trained at first and foremost, we are trained at home. Our home is the first school. I have heard too many mothers use the foulest of language to a child that she has in her arms. And that child might be just 2 to 3 years old, just learning to speak, but the vulgarity with which those parents treat those children. We have to do better in our homes because it's our first school. The second, but the most powerful school is the environment, because it's much more powerful than the school, and it is very, very pervasive. Well, Ran, it's time that we stop.
Okay, Surusia, thank you so much for another wonderful lecture. We got 3 more to go, and it's been a roller coaster. It's been a lot of people have been engaging in the questions. And if you do have a question, we encourage you to please send us an email to Garifuna Heritage Foundation at yahoo.com, or to send us your questions right here on Facebook at Garifuna Language and Culture Academy online page through Gafu Garifuna. Thank you, Surusia, for a wonderful lecture. We have posted the outline of today's lecture on our Facebook page. We have sent it also through Garifuna link at googlegroups.com. If you are a member, you should have it in your mailbox. If you're not a member of Garifuna link at googlegroups.com, I suggest you write an email requesting to join this wonderful database of emails where you send one email and thousands of Garinagu all over the diaspora are able to get your messages. So thank you, Surusia, and we'll see you next week. And as we say, please stay tuned every Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. for the Garifuna Language on class with Dr. Theodore Aranda on Garifuna history. Today was lecture number 5, session 1. Okay? Thank you so much, Surusia, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, and thank you very, very much, and we'll be ready for next week also. Bitigulu, good night. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. On behalf of Garifuna American Heritage Foundation, we thank you for joining us tonight to the Clifford J. Palazzo Garifuna Language and Culture Academy online. Don't forget, tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time through www.lmbroots.com in the Bronx and www.radiocentroamerica.com in Los Angeles. Classes are free and for the entire family. Download the homework or the handout from our Facebook's Garifuna Language and Culture Academy page or from www.garifunaheritagefoundation.org. All radio shows are recorded or archived for your online demand. So you can find it on YouTube, Gafu channel, anytime, 24/7. This project is made possible in part by a grant from the Alliance for California Traditional Arts in partnership with the Walter and Elise Haas Fund, the William and Flora Hewitt, and the James Irvine Foundation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And don't forget, we have 1 hour of music and talk right now with Garifuna Music on top of DJ La Fuga. We are going